Oh gosh, look at the crowd.
Come this way.
Those who spread goodness radiate happiness to everyone around them. Introducing LOLC Finance Credit Cards. Fuel the goodness in you.
You love the feeling of being renewed. To stay beautiful every single day. To breathe just like we do. Because you are truly delicate. Protecting the ones who've been with us through the years. With Ceolac Care, the only wood coating that truly protects you. Ceolac Wood Coatings from Jat.
Welcome to LMDtv. I'm Fazmina Imamudeen. We are taking a break from the struggle at home and going global today. Joining with us is Paul Ash. He's the president of Chartered Institute of Management Accountants and the chair of the Association of International Certified Professional Accountants. Paul, I warmly welcome you to the show.
Thank you very much.
To start with, I'd like to ask, what role does Chartered Institute of Management Accountants play in the global business?
Well, thank you. The Chartered Institute of Management Accountants, or CIMA for short, CIMA, is the largest professional institute that is dedicated to the profession of management accounting. And the profession of management accounting is critical to the provision of information, both the delivering accurate information, but also commenting and interpreting that information for all the stakeholders of business or governments or other businesses or other organizations where it is critical that the information gets to whoever it requires that. And that includes also people in the supply chain and the customer chain as well.
Brilliant. I'd like to move on to current affairs in the business scenario. In the aftermath of a pandemic, we are now witnessing an outbreak of monkeypox as well as the conflict between Ukraine and Russia, all of which have had an impact on the global economy. Now, what is the current climate like in the business and professional world?
Well, we are really in a state of uncertainty. You're quite right. We've had layer upon layer of problems, you know, whether it's from the health point of view and COVID and monkeypox and war, the uncertainty that war brings, and the consequences of that war, which has led to problems in the supply chain of food and also in terms of energy. And this has led also to a financial crisis with, you know, rising inflation, rising interest rates, and so on. But again, our profession, as I said, is at the center of business, and it's stepped up to dealing with this extraordinary amount of change and disruption. As I said earlier, as finance professionals, we drive effective business management in any economic climate. But it's at challenging times such as these that our expertise and skills really come to the fore. And in the past 2 years, we have become the value partner of all organizations that they desperately need. We truly have delivered on, I think we have truly delivered on our purpose of our profession that is central to the purpose of our profession, and meeting the demands of these constantly changing requirements that are being put on us. And we've had to adapt, of course, like anybody has in business or government or whatever organization you work in or a part of. You think of health service, you think of the pharmaceutical industry in the way that they've had to step up to the pandemic, for example. And, you know, suppliers, logistics suppliers, supply chains and that sort of thing, getting the vaccine to where they're needed. Our people are right at the heart of all of those sort of decision making. And, you know, what is at the heart of our institute is our commitment to learning, unlearning and relearning. And that's how we've really been able to adapt and step up to this change. You know, what we learned in the past, you know, yes, it gives us a good grounding in what we require, but in order to step up and meet the challenges of today that has been thrown out by all this uncertainty and disruption, it's our ability to unlearn what we've learned, so to speak, and then relearn and apply new skills to these problems. And if I can also say that the work that we've been doing on growing our digital skills and our digital mindset has been of absolute paramount importance. And I don't think that we would have been able to have been really so effective in what we've been able to achieve over the last 2 years had it not been for the advances in artificial intelligence, in robotics, and of course we weren't responsible for those developments, but we've had to sort of again learn, unlearn and relearn what we know about that in order to be able to be sure that the information that is produced by artificial intelligence is indeed as accurate and as truthful as we can possibly get it. There's no point in making decisions on information that is wrong or that it's biased. And this is also a real importance when it comes to reporting on environmental, social, governance, the so-called ESG factors. If you think about reporting on carbon emissions and our carbon footprint and so on, which is going to be so important going forward for the future of our planet, it's absolutely imperative that we get this information absolutely right. So we're there for the world, for the planet, for businesses, and we recognize that, you know, our skills aren't abundant, so we're always looking for new skills, to recruit new skills, and we've been doing that in the Sri Lankan market for several years now, and many years, and it's one of our largest and most active markets.
Thank you. Based on what you said on AI, I'd like to ask my next question. Now, many firms are already taking advantage of basic automated accounting operations owing to the rapidly evolving intelligent technology, as you say. Now, this will impact the role of accountancy professionals. What does the future hold for accountants in a technologically driven world?
Well, of course, the large-scale industries have all adapted it. They've invested in it. And of course, it is, you know, artificial intelligence, you know, and data analytics is dominated by the big tech companies. We can't get away from that, you know, the likes of Google, Amazon, Facebook, and so on. And but, you know, we're looking to help democratize is a word we use, democratize the use of artificial intelligence in the way that in the early days of the Industrial Revolution, the people that gained from the technologies in the Industrial Revolution of 300 years ago now were the rich and the few. And it was only many hundreds of years later that this was then that you know, everybody really benefited across the board from these developments. And it's the same with artificial intelligence and data analytics. All businesses, all small businesses, need to develop their skills in this. And again, this is where I think a management accountant that is heart of the business, or could even be someone that has come through our training and who's an entrepreneur and who's started their own business. I think this is essential, you know, for any business, for someone to have someone that has that digital mindset and is able to adapt and deliver on this and use what is out there. So it's the people that can see and understand that are leading businesses in this area. That is really essential.
Thank you. Now, do you see the current global business landscape as a tsunami in slow motion or an opportunity to differentiate, innovate, and build new pathways?
Both. I do see that that it is a tsunami building for many businesses. We can't escape that, but it's also an opportunity for the businesses to as always, I mean, I mentioned earlier on the pharmaceutical industry and the way that if you look at companies like Pfizer, BioNTech, and so on, AstraZeneca took the opportunities here to deliver what the world needed. If you look at the much smaller businesses in the supply chain who actually made it happen in terms of getting the vaccines, getting the healthcare equipment, getting the necessary ventilators, eco machines, all those sorts of things into intensive care. It was a collective effort. So there's no doubt in my mind, whatever the situation, there are opportunities. And again, if you look at the war going on in Ukraine, in terms of the shortages of supply of grain, wheat in particular, again, there are alternative foods, around the world, and it's up to the innovative people that we serve and our members that run these businesses to step up to the plate and adapt.
I think with the changing, evolving world, adaptation is something that is very important in order to keep up with what is happening. In the midst of a crisis that has gripped the business world, which we are talking about, could you share some key initiatives that can help preserve corporate professionalism?
Well, we've already mentioned a few. Certainly accelerating the transformation in digital technology, in personnel, investing in those people, investing in the workplace as well, which I think has been neglected over the last 2 years as people haven't been in the workplace so much. And I think that that we need to find new ways of working, working in a hybrid environment. Not purely virtual, not purely physical, and so on. Businesses need to update their strategy to embrace uncertainty. There's little point in sort of setting a plan 5 years ago and still sticking to that. I can't think of any how that would be of use to any businesses at this point in time. So it's a sort of, again, keeping your eyes wide open, in terms of understanding what the threats are, understanding what your weaknesses are, but also understanding what your strengths are and the opportunities that you need to take going forward. And then it's being ready and fit to be able to quickly adapt and respond to when those opportunities come into play. So again, it's having the right mindset within your workforce, and having and providing your staff with the right tools to be able to adapt and really accelerate through the delivery of whatever the solution is to the problem that is faced. I hope that helps.
Yes. Now, what exactly does good corporate governance entail, and how does good governance at the corporate level impact the global economic future given the current challenges?
Well, in one word, good corporate governance, to my mind, means doing things the right way. And of course, what is right is open to interpretation, and is open to different interpretation on ethics and that sort of thing. Now, over the years, I've I've come, through a period of time. I started working in the 1970s and moved through senior position in big corporates in the 1980s and 1990s. And the business ethics of those days are different to the ethics of today. In the past, it was sort of, you were very much focused on your ability to win and win at all costs. But now we look more in a holistic way at the whole of the supply and the customer chain. And we see that, we need to look after our suppliers, and we need to look after our customers. We need to see that our customers are getting really good value so that we can keep the customers, sustain the customers, and also make sure that our suppliers, frankly, stay in business and continue to supply us. That is a very, very new way of thinking. And of course, it's not just all about the profit you make today, but the profits that you make and the type of profits and whether these are ethical, returns that you're making in your business for the long term. That's what really matters.
Being ethical than focusing more on profit-oriented benefits, I would say. That's what you're trying to suggest.
You can make a profit, but you can make a profit ethically, or you can make a profit unethically. And that's the choice, and that's the difference. And if you look at, what our organization, CIMA, has always stood for, it's always stood for justice. It's always stood for doing things the right way. And our founding fathers, were, set out, the principles of our profession over 100 years ago now. And we still live up to those values, and even more so today.
This leads to the next question, which is on corruption. How do we create awareness on corruption, and what lessons can we draw from these situations, especially for business people, including professionals?
Well, I think that for not just businesses, but whole economies to survive and thrive through all of this, you have to have a good ethical business practices, and you have to adhere to the law. And if you don't adhere to the law and you don't do things in an ethical way, and adhering to sort of common ethical standards that, that are, measured on a global basis in the way that, our peers, measure us as well, then you will lose the opportunity. People, the investment markets won't invest in you anymore. You will lose opportunities because people won't engage with you. They won't deal with you. They won't buy your product. Because now what has changed is that when we look at the integrated report for a company, it's not just what you are doing yourself, but what you are engaging with in terms of your supply chain and your customer chain. That's what you're judged on. So if anybody is seen to be corrupt, as you say, your word, in that chain, then they'll find themselves excluded from that business. So this will happen I believe, in a sort of almost natural, automatic way, given the changes that are being made to international reporting standards on sustainability right now. But that doesn't mean to say that we can be complacent. We also need to as an institute, be aware of corruption. We need to be aware of the ethical standards of our members. And, we set very high standards for people that carry our designation, the CGMA. And if we find that people have not adhered to those ethical standards, then we have a system, a disciplinary process, which we use in order to, either correct that behavior or even, remove that qualification from one of our professionals. And we will do that in a public way. I hope that helps.
It does. CIMA being one of the strongest driver of management information on sustainability, what are the hurdles to business sustainability, particularly with SME and startups, and how can they be supported in these hard times?
Well, first and foremost, a small business and a startup needs to be a sustainable business in its, in an economic sense. There is no point in keeping a business alive that in a normal circumstances would not be a good business. And that is where a management accountant and a financial advisor, management financial advisor, can help businesses. So if the small business doesn't have that expertise, then I would strongly recommend that they get it. And we have many members in practice that will work and help small businesses across the globe in terms of assessing, their business model, helping entrepreneurs to change their business model as well. So that's first and foremost. You must have a sustainable business. But if you have a sustainable business, but you're hit then by, as you said, the word tsunami of problems that are hitting businesses, very, very good businesses, then what should be done to help those businesses? Well, clearly, there are fiscal measures that governments can help with in terms of, using, taxation policy, using grants, policies, lending money, standing behind loans from banks and that sort of thing, in the way that they did in the UK with what was called the bounce back loan for businesses in the UK. The government stood behind those loans so that the bank didn't have to take those loans so the issuing bank didn't have to take those loans on its balance sheet. So there's lots of different things we can do, and as a profession, we advocate all of those measures with governments and help governments to come up with solutions for companies. But I said, first and foremost, a business, at its core needs to be a good business. And I think that is where we can help most of all in ensuring that.
As you might be aware of the fact that, how Sri Lanka is going through an economic crisis, I'd like to know how you view Sri Lanka today, and how do you see, what do you think, the future of the country is like in terms of economy, finance, and business?
I think that, first of all, Sri Lanka is a wonderful country. It's a wonderful place to visit and live. I think the people of Sri Lanka are wonderful people, dedicated people, hardworking people, that have the right attitudes. We talked about ethics, that, I would say that they have a very high standard of ethics. I think that if you also have quite a broad base of industry and agriculture and tourism. So you have a wide economic base to employ your people. And so I think that, all the ingredients are there for Sri Lanka to be a real success. And it just needs the right framework and the right environment to encourage that success. But I see all the ingredients of, a strong, mindset, amongst its people, a great work ethic, and it truly is a wonderful country. So I have no doubt that Sri Lanka will bounce back from these problems, and it will bounce back even stronger than it was before.
Thank you for those hopeful words, Paul. Thank you very much for joining us today in a rapidly changing world, which is pummeled by numerous crises. You gave us a sense of how the global business landscape would be and the role of CIMA in it.
My pleasure. And we're always here to support you, and indeed our members, many members and students in Sri Lanka.
Thank you, Paul. And with that, another forum episode comes to a close. You may follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Good night.